Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Alright everybody, welcome to another recommendations video. This one we actually have a sports romance for you. I like to have sports recommendations for most of the sports. I'm slowly adding them in here now and then. There's not really any logic to when I make one or whatever. But I realized that I don't have a only football rec. I've done a couple hockey ones. I think I've done a basketball one. Maybe I haven't even done that. I don't know. I might have always lumped them together. I'm not sure. But it is getting warm. Okay, so I'm going to get through this as quick as we can before I need to take a break and turn the air back on. So hopefully this one will be one of my quick rec videos. We'll see, right? I say that. Who knows how long it'll be. But I think this one will be a bit shorter. We'll see. Some of these are a lot older books that I've read. Some of them are pretty recent. Some of them are 5-star books. Some of them are 3.5 to 4. It just all depends. But I have a collection of 10 football romances for you. Let's go ahead and dive in. So first off, we will start with Coach and Blitzed by Devney Perry, or Blitzed by Devney Perry. These are part of her Wildcat State ones. They're about a football team. These do mostly focus on the coaches so far. I think the next one will be about a player. I don't know, but it comes out soon. Rally, that one comes soon. But these two are about coaches, actually. So the first one is about our hero who is a single dad, and he's moving to this town to take over teaching his alma mater, I believe, or coaching his alma mater. He has just recently ended playing professionally, and as a lot of them do, he becomes a coach then. So he moves there, and the assistant athletic director, I believe that's what her role is. They actually knew each other in college and almost had a thing. And he ended up getting a girl pregnant and marrying her and all that jazz. And so they never really got a chance. And now she's the one who he has to work with her there. And it is a no fraternization policy, which this will follow us through this series because it also causes problems in Blitz, where there was a relationship between an inappropriate relationship at the school, and so now they're just like, no, it's not happening. Nowhere, we're not having it happen. But they can't help but be drawn to each other. Him especially, she's a woman that he wish he had been with. He wish he hadn't made this mistake with this other woman, even though he loves his child, so he doesn't consider that. But this one does have some other woman drama because the mother of his child, she still tries to insert herself at different times, tries to claim her parental rights at inappropriate or inopportune times, as it were. So we do have to deal with that. So this one is a bit of a back and forth between them. There are things that have to be secretive, But what I did like is that, he's pretty clear what he wants the whole time. He's just not sure how he can make it happen. So really enjoyed that one. Then I read Blitzed, which I've said multiple times when I talk about Blitzed. This one is definitely a forbidden romance. It's age gap. It's a coach and a player, though he doesn't coach her. She is on the volleyball team. He's a football coach. He's actually the friend of the guy from Coach. And she actually also is his neighbor. And they meet at a 4th of July party that he has. They have this amazing one-night stand. And then nothing. She doesn't contact him again. They don't see each other. And she discovers her first day of practice, because practice does start before the school year does, right, for athletes. She's going around and being introduced to all the coaches, even the ones that aren't like her coach, and she gets introduced to him, and he is, I can't remember if he's the defensive line coach or says I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know which one he is. But this is bad because he's in the athletic department, and also he's her neighbor. And he didn't know that she was his neighbor, though this was a block party that he had. He couldn't figure out where she lived, and it's because the house next door was bought by the parents of some students, and I think it's 2 sisters there, and then she's renting there as well. So they're all people on the volleyball team living there. And so he didn't know that she lived there, and he also didn't know that she was only, I believe, 21. So she's not too young or anything like that, but I mean, I believe he's like 10 years older than her, and he's her coach, and it's forbidden. But what I love about this book and why it's my favorite Devney Perry is that I feel like it used flashbacks very well. I'm not a huge fan of flashbacks, and Devney Perry likes to use a lot of them. It's why I've had trouble with previous books. But the way we do it is that we have these little snippets of the flashback to that night and all the things they shared and their connection and the things that they have similar about them. So when we see their chemistry just being crazy in the current time, we have these little flashes back to that night and what it is that keeps them wanting each other so much. Because it would be much easier if they would just let it go, right? But they can't, and we see those moments. So I really liked it. There was some angst in this one, some things to deal with. They both have struggles in their life. You know, she worries about disappointing her mother, who's a professional volleyball player. Like, she went to the Olympics, I think. She was a champion. And so there's a lot of pressure to do that. And also, our heroine had a really messy breakup that actually led to her switching for her senior year of college at this place. So, yeah. This was good. If you are uncomfortable by the power dynamics of like coach and player or like student teacher and stuff like that, I find that this one kind of skirts around that pretty well. Not only because he's not directly coaching her, but also because they're not actually that many years apart from each other when you think about it. So I don't know. I just loved it. I gobbled this up. The audiobook is fantastic. Highly recommend these for you. Okay, next up, I of course have to talk about Tal Bauer. Love him so much. So there's the jock and the quarterback actually, but I talk about the quarterback quite a bit, so I figured I'd bring up the jock this time because this one is a football player who is in the closet. So if you don't like stories like that, this is an MM romance. If you don't like stories like that, this one will be hard because it does also have hate crime and some animosity because our hero is gay in Texas and is the star football player. But what happens is that Wes, he is away from his family and he's taking this like 2-week trip to Paris. That's like a school thing. And Justin also goes. And he, you know, has dealt with being like an out gay man in Texas himself as well. He has struggles with his parents not fully accepting who he is, and he just does not have time for people who are in the closet anymore. But when they both are on this kind of like, I think it's a short-term like Paris trip. Why are they there? I can't remember now. I don't remember. I'm sorry. But they are roommates at this place, and they fall in love when they're there, and they have this connection. They become intimate. They fall for each other, and when they see each other back home, Wes knows that he can't be with Justin, but the thing is, he loves him so much, and he's had to hide who he was for so long. And so to have this man that he had such a wonderful connection with and just such a longing for, to not be able to have him, it's very difficult. So again, this is about a secret relationship. It is very hidden. There are high stakes for it, and I cried buckets. So again, if you're not comfortable with that, be warned. But you could read The Quarterback, which is about actually a man who we see him go through a bit of a story arc in this one because he is a fellow player with Wes. And he, you know, he doesn't struggle with finding out that Wes is gay. He struggles with that Wes kept it a secret. But when we have his book, he himself has a sexual awakening with actually Justin's dad. So that's a friend's dad romance, right? So if you don't want to read an in the closet angsty one, you could try The Quarterback, which is a bi awakening times 2. Like they both have been only with women before, and it's great. Love it. Okay, then we have classic, gotta mention it, The Bombshell Effect by Carla Sorensen. In fact, a lot of her books revolve around football, so definitely a good choice. But in The Bombshell Effect, we actually have our heroine who has inherited a football team, the Washington Wolves, and our hero who is, I think he's a straight up single dad. But yeah, he's the quarterback and she is now the owner, and they are neighbors, and they get off this animosity at the beginning, and then he discovers she's his boss. So she's like, I'm not going to hold it against you, but also you need to work on your attitude. You need to be better with the reporters. You need to stay on top of this because you are an example to people and you are the face of this team. So you need to get it together. So there's some stuff right there. I love this because it's a female billionaire. Love it. She is already very successful, and then her dad leaves her this team, and she doesn't know if she wants it, if she's going to sell it to someone else or whatever. But it does make her feel closer to her dad to have it. So lots of good stuff there. And again, pretty much any of Carla Sorensen's along the lines you can read. I'm actually reading her upcoming release, The Best of All. And that one is a football as well. Very good. All right. Then we have The Hookup by Kristen Callahan, which is actually being traditionally published. This one is getting released, so that's great. But I read this many years ago. And this one is a one-night stand that turns into a kind of like frenemies with benefits. And I actually like this one because Drew, the football player, falls way more for the girl. And she very much like doesn't want to date athletes. She's kind of stuck up about it, but she kind of has a reason. Like her mom has always made her feel that like you can't trust athletes. Like they'll stab you in the back. They're not trustworthy, all these things. But she's very attracted to Drew. And once they're having these hookups, it's very hard to stop. And yeah, so this is a he falls first, he falls hardest, absolutely. And her having to struggle with like, can I be with a football player? So yeah, it's kind of weak, her reasons to not be with him, but it's romance reasons, right? The things I love about this though, there's some beautiful caretaking moments in this one when Drew actually gets injured. And I just found it to be very like fascinating. So I'm very interested for the re-release to see if they, you know, what they updated or what changed. Usually there are just very slight changes when a book is from like the early 2010s and it gets republished. You know, like Elle Kennedy had some language and some things like cleaned up in hers before they were re-released. So I wonder if we'll see that with these as well. But I do recommend The Hookup. I actually recommend the whole series of this. There is college football through the whole series and it is wonderful. I love it. All right, then we have Blindside by Candy Steiner, of course. This one is a fake dating or also like a teach me type kind of thing where I believe is she a reporter too? See, I'm just blabbering about stuff. This one's a football romance by Candy Steiner, and I know there's fake dating, and I think that she is a virgin, and there's some teach me stuff going on with this one that I really liked. So I read this one actually for my Patreon for a football romance, and I had a really good time. I hadn't read any Candy Steiner before I read that one. That's right. That's right. And I definitely want to read some more. I actually recently purchased a few of hers when she had the paperbacks on sale. So I want to read some of her hockey romance, but I have heard really good things about all of her stories for sure. Okay, then we have One Look, and this is the beginning of the Sullivan Family series by Lena Hendricks. I love it so much. This was actually my first Lena Hendricks that I read, and I feel like she really went big with this series when it came out, and I feel like it really boosted her names out there. And I mean, look at Andrew on the cover. I mean, look at him, okay? Look at that like fuzzy sweater and the chest hair and just the little bit of like salt and pepper up there. I'm here for it. Okay, I love it. Andrew being the model, not the name of the character. The character in here is Lark is the heroine and Wyatt is the hero. And this is another single dad, and he is back staying in out-of-towner, and he's there for a funeral, I believe. And so Lark is actually there, and she is a actress, and she's actually hired to be like a mourner at this funeral. I remember that. That's crazy. And Wyatt is very like distrustful of this person who's there mourning over this person, and he kind of figures it out. She's like, look, I was hired to do this. You know, I'm out of work actress. I needed the money. And she ends up stuck in out-of-towner for a while, and she ends up being hired as kind of a nanny / assistant for Wyatt. And she ends up being a live-in as well for those things. So some other parts of football that get pulled in, though, is that it's the summer time, so they haven't quite started practice he's a college football coach. And so there's a few of the men who, to keep them out of trouble, they get brought to live in his like guest house. So she also is helping wrangle these football players, which I loved so much. So I really loved this story because of how the third act conflict worked and how this one has a bit of some like long distance dating that goes on in it. And I really liked how it was handled, as well as, of course, this was spicy and sweet because it's Lena Hendricks and she wouldn't let us down in that respect at all. So wonderful. All right, then we have the Varsity Dad series by Lex Martin. Now, this is the one that I own. I believe this was book 4 or 5, and I started reading the series with, with the, where's your list here? I read Second Down Darling first, which was Charlotte and Jake. But the series starts with the Varsity Dad Dilemma. So this is a series of college football players who all like become dads. Some of them single dads, some of them are with the person, like all of these things. So I think that's very interesting that it's, you know, I guess a lot of people are getting horny and having kids in college. I mean, it happens for sure. But this one specifically, Heartbreaker Handoff, is a cheerleader and a football player, but she actually, it's a not his baby. So she's actually with a different football player. He gets her pregnant. When she goes to tell him that she's pregnant, she discovers that not only is he dating someone else, he has engaged to a woman from his hometown who is going to be moving and going to that college so she can be closer to him. And I'm very excited for her because guess what? During this book, that woman ditches that asshole and she's going to be our heroine in a future book, which I'm really excited about. But in this one, we have our wonderful Billy, who he's been interested in our heroine for a while. And when he learns about her being pregnant, he's like, well, I'll help you. They literally move into a place together. He pretends that the baby is his and is willing to take the heat from her dad, who is actually his coach, because he doesn't want her to have to deal with the anxiety and, you know, struggle of telling her dad who really is the baby daddy, which is the star player, and she knows her dad would just blow up at this guy and freak out. So Billy literally takes the heat and becomes her like fake boyfriend, but also real boyfriend, because he's living with her and he's there for all these milestones of the baby, and it's great. Like, and then once the baby's there, because this is one where the baby comes in partway through the book, which I love, okay? One of my pet peeves of romances with pregnancy is when the baby is born in like the epilogue, which I'm sorry, I don't like. I want to see them be new parents together, but not every author wants to do, because once someone has the baby, there's no sexy time for a certain amount of time. So it's like authors don't love to put that in there, but I want it. So loved this series. But again, you can start with the Varsity Dad Dilemma, or you can be like me and start in the middle with whichever one sounds good to you, but they all have some football going on. All right, then we have The One I Left Behind by Piper Rain. This one is actually an ex-football player who is stopping in his hometown, which has Plain Daisy Ranch, and he runs into his high school sweetheart, who they broke up when he went away to college, and things didn't go well, and they haven't really seen each other since. And he comes back to town, and he is retired, and there are people there trying to get him to be the coach of the high school football team, but he's like, nah, I don't want to do that. His dad is making him build his own house there, and he runs into his ex, and she has a teenage son, who everybody is telling you is not his, okay? But a lot of people think that he is, because she's never told anyone who the father is, but she's like, if you were the father, I would tell you. And that's true. This isn't secretly his kid. However, there's still a lot of animosity and heartbreak over how they broke up. But I gotta tell you, we have a town of meddlers, and we have family members who know that these two are meant to be together, and they do their little work, everybody. Okay, the people in this town are gonna make sure that these two are together. There is a bit of other man drama from the actual baby daddy, so be prepared for that, but he's a total loser, and we won't deal with him for very long, but he's there. All right, then this one is a little strange. It's called So That Got Weird by Amelia K. Or I think it's Kingston. I just wrote down the initial there. But this was one that I read from Audible Plus. I was actually putting together this bookshelf. That is so funny. And I wanted a book that I didn't really have to pay attention to, but I wanted to try. And I read So That Got Weird. And this one is one where we have a heroine who is a virgin, and she wants to hire someone to take her virginity. And she tries to hire the hero to do this. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. You're not going to pay me for sex. And she's like, no, but like, I just want to lose it so that I can then like do it. And anyway, they end up becoming friends, and then also kind of fake dating involved as well. And of course, we're going to have some spicy lessons along the way. We're going to get there for sure. And this was one of the ones, like I said, some of these on the list aren't my favorite. This one was just okay. I've read better, I've read worse, but I thought it was unique. I really liked the narration for it, and it was cute. Like, it was quick. The audiobook was only like a 5-hour one, so it was like really quick, but it's there if you want it. And then one of my absolute favorite football romances, for real, is The Rivalry by Nikki Sloan. This one is a college romance, and it is, as you guessed, about a rivalry between these two schools. And our heroine is a cheerleader for one, also the daughter of the football coach there. And our hero is the like quarterback of the opposite, or the enemy football team, right? And they actually meet at a wedding where they have mutual friends getting married, and they meet there, and they have this great connection, and they are like gonna hook up, like it's gonna happen. And then something happens that kind of spoils them from being together, and now like they've missed it. And eventually they find out who each other are, and he still wants to be with her. He just doesn't get why they can't be together. And she's like, we're at rival schools. My dad will hate you. And like, I don't know if I want to be with someone from a rival school, because we're always going to be enemies. And what I like about him is, well, it's a little annoying that he doesn't get it, you know, doesn't take her as seriously about this as possible, realize how conflicting this could be for her if like her cheerleading team knew who she was dating, if her parents knew who she was dating. Not that her parents would be like mean, but they would be like side-eyeing him all the time, right? Of like, oh, you're dating an enemy football player, right? Like, her parents are great. It's not like they would actually be mean about it, but it would cause a conflict of interest, so it were. And also, but from his point of view, he's like, it's not going to be forever. Like, we'll be out of college eventually, and we have great chemistry. Like, let's make it happen. So yeah, another thing I really love in this one is, I know this can annoy people sometimes, and it does annoy me sometimes too when it's too easy, but this is one of the ones where like the heroine hasn't had an orgasm with a guy, and so she tells him, she's honest with him, she's like, don't be weird if I can't have one, like, it's not you. And it isn't even her being like, oh, men haven't tried. She honestly hasn't been able to like get out of her head enough to orgasm with a partner. And not any man actually being lame at it, which I know is often the case in these books, where it's just like, oh, nobody's tried. And that always kind of makes me roll my eyes, because I'm like, people try. And if you as a female would communicate as well as you can, you know, and you had a good relationship with your partner, you guys would get there, right? But the fact that, especially young people, they're like, oh, well, I haven't tried. And again, I'm not discounting anyone who actually has like reasons why they can't. I just mean it's a romance reason usually that people can't, and then the hero is the one who does it, right? And I'm not always a huge fan of that, because it's just so classic. But in this case, she really is like, no, like, it isn't just because someone was too lame to do it. Like, I just can't. And he's like, oh, I want this to happen. And so they really like work at it together. And I really like that about him. And I feel like Jay handles it like really well. I don't know. So I like it. But this is one of my favorites. I love Nikki Sloan. I've read everything that she's written, I believe, except a few like novellas. And this is like one of my favorites, because I just love how it's done. And I mean, look at that tight end. Woo! So there you go. Those are some football romances. Go team! Let me know some of your favorites. Let me know which other sport you would like. I know, I'm sorry. If you ask for swimming or gymnastics or those are going to be difficult for me to do. But I haven't done baseball or basketball, I think. I think I've really only done hockey and football. So let me know which one you'd like. And maybe I'll do one, since the Olympics are coming up, maybe I'll do one that's just like mixed sports. But I also want to do ones for like baseball and basketball too, because I have more of those recs. So anyway, let me know what you'd like. If you'd like to support this channel and what I do here, definitely check some of my links out down below for Patreon, channel memberships, or send a one-time gift. You know, if you don't want to commit to month, you can always send a super sticker or something. That always gets my way as well. Thank you so much for watching, friends, and we'll see you next time. Bye!